Welcome back to the channel, guys. It's been a long time since we've seen this boy on the channel, but it's actually his 30th birthday. So this year we're going to have quite a lot of treats lined up for it. The first one's actually something we got done a few months ago, but I've been holding off doing the review on it till I felt a bit more comfortable, got used to it. But many good things coming up for that. I'm not going to lie to you, this isn't going to be your typical YouTube Supra where they build it within the week, etc. It's going to take time, but I am going to be putting more content on there because a few of you have been asking for it, so we'll be doing that. What we're going to be talking about in this one, guys, is that little silver shiny thing over there. So I've got their car converted to manual, so it's now got a R154 gearbox in there, and basically I'm going to talk you through my thought process, why I went for this box, what other options were there out there, how much did it cost me, how does it feel to drive, was it worth it. So we'll cover quite a few different topics, but hopefully you'll find it useful. When I was looking at which gearbox to choose, there wasn't much out there, certainly not in the modern day in terms of 2010 or later. Most of the things were, well, Supras have been around forever, like I said, 30 years. So this is hopefully an attempt to give you some modern day useful advice on the gearbox. So with that said, guys, I'm going to jump in the car and let's go for a drive. Right, so let's talk options. So you've got many different options when it comes to converting to a manual Supra. So if you've got an automatic, some of the options that might be going through your mind are, well, the most popular one is the V160, V161, which is the original 6-speed box from the Toyota Supra. So that's the Getrag box. They're good for about 800-900 horsepower on stock internals, probably a bit more, but anyway, that's the one to have. But the problem is you can only buy them used, and used they start at around £8,000 for the gearbox, right? You might be able to get some a bit cheaper, 6,000, etc., but you're really rolling the dice in terms of if they've got any mechanical issues, crunching, grinding, etc., worn synchros, you're literally going to struggle to get that rebuilt. So that's the biggest problem with those gearboxes, is you're really rolling the dice. And of course the price, right, is ludicrous. It's almost £8,000 before you've even put it in your car, let alone put all the other bits that help convert the car from auto to manual. Second popular option is the CD009 box. So that is from the 370Zs and the late 350Zs from the Nissans. And again, very popular, it can hold a lot of power, but it's a 6-speed box, so everyone prefers it because of that. It's a cheaper way to get into the 6-speed life. It does use a lot of adapters. I'm just going to let the ambulance go by. Yeah, so sorry, as I was saying, it does use a lot of adapters, so you get Collins plate adapters. It's a lot of, in my opinion, again, not facts, but in my opinion, it was too much Frankenstein stuff going on. I'd reached out to owners who'd put this box in and weren't quite that happy with it. In fact, one of the owners actually said to me that had I had the time to go back around again, I probably would have gone R154, simply because of the OEM dropping like capabilities that it has, right? So with the with the CD009 and the V161, you basically have to change out the diff. Well, you don't have to, but the ratios on the automatic diff and the way that it marry up to the 6-speed gearbox means your gearing will be really, really short. So you'll be constantly changing gears. Now the way around that, the way around that is to basically change your diff. So once you change your diff, you'll have something that mated a lot closer. So usually, again, a popular option is people go for the original 6-speed diff that you get from the Supras. Again, guys, you're looking at almost £1,000 second hand to do that. So the costs for that first option just keep on mounting. Now, the second one on the CD009, I'm sure you can get other aftermarket diffs, etc. that will help. Might bring the cost down ever so slightly. But what happens if you don't change that diff is every time you're coming on boost, you'll go through your gear very quickly and you'll have to change. So it becomes less of an enjoyable experience, right? Short term, you might be able to live with it, but long term, the car, from what I've heard, I was speaking to owners two things, three actually. You can buy it brand new today, even though it's a 30-plus-year-old gearbox. Toyota still make it. It's a drop-in into the Mark IV Supra, so I think it was available on the Mark III late generations of the Supra and a couple of Sauras, etc. But it is literally as close to a drop-in gearbox as you can get. So no messing around with the tunnels, no having adapter plates like you do with the Nissan gearboxes. And one of the nice things is, brand new, they can take quite a lot of horsepower. So SRD Tuning, who actually fitted this gearbox for me and done the whole conversion, they've put these in cars brand new, running up to 800 horsepower. So they can do that. That's more than the power I'm ever going to be running in this. So yeah, for me, the pros were just there. So the gearbox itself is about £3,500–4,000 brand new from Toyota. Of course, SRD can get everything ordered in for you. Let's just talk through some of the other costs associated with this box. So drive in, drive out, you're probably looking at around the £8,000 mark to get everything done. A little bit more depending on some of the options that you go for, but that's drive in, drive out, full conversion. You don't have to worry about anything. Includes all the labour, etc. as well. So I mean, it seems really, really pricey, and I'm not going to lie, it is. But when we get onto the final thoughts, etc., I'll talk you through some of the reasons why to me it was a worthwhile price to pay. But anyway, I'm going to pull over for fuel. As we do, let's just finish off this part of the video, just talking around some of the modern day options that you can actually have converted. So we've talked about some of the most popular gearbox conversions. One of the other ones that I didn't mention is a BMW box. It's off a 5 Series, I believe. And it's a pretty popular box that again, some people offer 530 diesel, I think, but again, it can handle quite a bit, but people do it. But again, it's a hodgepodgery gearbox conversion. If you want to do it on the cheap, that and the Nissan's actually probably your best bet. But I'll just turn the car off because I'm going to fill it up with petrol in just a second, but let's finish this section of the video off. So some of the modern day equivalent options that you have now, you can get a DCT conversion done. Whiffbits, Garage Whiffbits have been doing that for quite a while. There's some videos on Officially Gassed on his YouTube channel of owner with that. It looks absolutely mental and rapid. If you want to be the fastest thing out there, then these modern day versions are the way to make your Supra just that little bit more modern and keep up with some of the modern gearbox styles that are out there. So the DCT costs around £15,000 to £20,000, simply because you have to get the Cyvex ECU installed. If you've got that already, then it'll bring the cost down a little bit. So that's, to me, is very expensive money. Again, you would be having to source your own gearbox used, etc. That's not with fully brand new parts. That's just for the conversion and the conversion kit with some used gearboxes, etc. Now there's also a ZF8 conversion, which looks very, very appealing. I think that'll be very popular because it removes the need for you to have the Cyvex. So if you want something modern with paddle shifts, etc., want to be literally going through the gears, have the car a lot more planted, then the ZF8 looks really, really good. And again, there's another video on the Officially Gassed channel behind that. But that's also the same box used in the Mark V Supra. So you can either have the R154 from the Mark III Supra in the Mark IV, or you can have the ZF8 from the Mark V in the Mark IV. Costs for this, at the time that I inquired from Whiffbits, they were just starting out, so they were rough costs, and it was around the, I believe, 13 to 15 or 16k, but it was a bit more pricey, but I'm sure as he does more conversions, the cost of that will come down. Why did I go for a traditional stick shift gearbox over the modern? If I'm honest with you guys, I could sit here and just say, well, the cost is extortionate to go with the modern gearboxes, which is kind of true. But for me, I only drive my car on average, I'd say once every fortnight, once or twice a month. For me, when I sit in it, it's a reminder of when I was young and I used to look at these fast cars, look at the way people were changing gears, etc. on a turbo car, dump valve going off, yada yada yada.
And for me, it was about getting as close to that as possible. I'm not that bothered about being the fastest thing on the road. There'll always be something quicker than you. So to me, it's a pointless thing. For me, a car's much more about how it makes you feel. Every time this comes on boost, every time I'm changing gears, it's priceless, right? So it's priceless in terms of, everyone knows how expensive these cars are, how expensive they are to run, but it's priceless in the sense that if as a child you've wanted something and you've worked hard to get it, then you can't put a price on that, guys. But putting the shoe on the other foot, if you want to be the fastest thing out there, go and get the modern day gearboxes, but just be prepared. At some point there'll probably be a Tesla that come and whoop you anyway. So yeah, it's where do you draw the line between when is a car still a car, especially a car of this era. For me, I draw the line in terms of I wouldn't want to put a modern gearbox in there, but that's not to say, guys, it's not a good option. It is, just not for me. So I'm going to go put some fuel in, and then after that we'll talk a little bit about how the gearbox feels, what was included in the conversion. I think I've already touched on the cost by now, but what was included in the conversion, who I got the work done by, and overall thoughts on the conversion and whether it was worth it. So I'll catch up with you in a second, guys. I'm just going to go fill up fuel. Right, guys, so the last part of the video is going to be in POV. Again, raising my voice in the hope that you'll be able to hear me over this, but basically let's talk about who carried out the work on the car. So I mentioned at the start, it was SRD Tuning, so they're based in Haysworth in England, and they've been around in the Supra game for, well, decades, as long as, I think probably as long as the Supra's been out, so very long time. The guys are absolutely sound. So Lee, Ash, Mike, all those guys really know what they're talking about. You can completely trust them with your car. So I basically emailed Lee and said, look, I want a conversion. Yes, I know to save costs I can probably source the parts myself, get some used, etc., but I don't want any of that headache, right? I just want to be able to drop the car off on a given day, come pick it up a couple of weeks later, fully converted, right? So drive in, drive out. And honestly, guys, they did not fail me. They kept me up to date throughout the whole process. So as they were dismantling the car, as any issues, etc., were popping up, they were straight on the phone to me, sending me images, videos over WhatsApp, etc. So yeah, really nice guys. And one of the key things I remember when I had the earlier conversations with Lee was around wanting this to drive like it was OEM, not to feel like a conversion, but to actually feel like this is how the car was from factory. So that's actually a very nice talking point for the clutch that we've actually used in this car. So it's a Spec 3 clutch, which I believe is rated for up to 600, maybe 650 horsepower. So again, a brand new clutch, guys. In fact, if you're interested in watching some of the conversion, SRD have got a video up on their channel, which I'll link up in the corner now. So that'll show you a little bit more about what they did. But basically, the clutch is good for 600. I was very clear that I didn't want it to be like a race type of clutch in terms of on off and just a dread to drive every time you're in London going through traffic, right? So this, to be honest, I have to say at this point, while I was talking about the clutch, it's phenomenal. Like, it feels just like a normal car. When you're moving off, the biting point, it's not harsh on your leg, yet at the same time it can hold, like I mentioned, 650 horsepower. So plenty of room for me to grow into it, but at the same time I'm able to give the car to my dad, give the car to my wife, and they're able to drive it, just because it's not a chore to move it around. So we've talked about the clutch, what that feels like. Let's talk about the actual gearbox, right? This is why we're here, why we're in this video anyway. So the R154, it's known as being an agricultural box in terms of it's very old school. I even think that it was used on some trucks back in the day, believe it or not, right? So that's why it can handle so much power. It's a very good, strong box, right? So it will, if you're buying it used, again, you'll be taking the chances. It's worth getting the Marlin Crawler uprated kit just to make it a little bit stronger. But again, I'm brand new, running BPU levels. Should fingers crossed, be absolutely fine. So yes, guys, it feels notchy compared to a modern day gearbox. So I've driven, well, quite a few modern day cars, and they just glide into gear. This is a little bit more
the only way to describe it is a bit more manly, like you've got to force it into gear. What I mean by that is literally click, click into gear, right? So I'll do that again, we'll go into fourth, click, click. So there's a slight resistance as I'm doing that, which is absolutely fine, and to me personally it adds a bit more character to the car. And also when you are giving it some beans, like it just gives you that little bit more reassurance that everything's working. So yeah, I'm happy with it. If you're expecting something modern, don't go for it. Like I said, it's got its own character and soul to it. So I'm out here, just like you can see today, early in the morning, having my own drive, enjoying the country roads. For me, you can't beat a manual box for this purpose, right? So do I regret it? Absolutely not. Am I happy I went with it? Yes. Is there anything I'd do differently if going back around? Quite honestly, probably not. I'd still go for a brand new box. I just want to have peace of mind, really. I mean, if you're thinking about getting this done, there is one alternative that I forgot to mention, but it's the T56 Magnum gearbox. But again, the cost is really, really high. You have to get that imported. And in fact, if you want, go watch SRT's video. They've fitted one, and I think Ash fitted it, and they basically talk about it's not the greatest thing out there, even though it costs so much. But yeah, feel free to go check that out. But I hope you found this video useful, guys, and leave a comment down below what you think. Do you think it was wise changing it from an automatic to a manual? And what about the R154 box? But until then, guys, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.